Take this job and shove it.
We're back. This is Jobcast Radio. I am Mike Baumgartner, your Work-Life Survival Sage, on this Valentine edition of Jobcast Radio, where we have spent the last 3 segments talking about what do you want to do if you meet somebody and you want to date somebody, and then how do you deal with it when HR sits you down and tells you you've been accused of sexual harassment. But there's other things going on in the world today. Now, I understand our unemployment rate, according to the government, is down to 9%. But according to Gallup, it's at 9.8% with only 34,000 jobs created. Well, look, I have harped on this on these job numbers. The economy has look, I have seen improvement in the job market. I don't know if the market is picked up that well. I do know that there are jobs beginning to form out there, but it's still very, very hard to find a job. And more, the internet and, again, places like Facebook and the web are actually helping people get hired and, unfortunately, keeping people from being hired. And I want to take a break from our Valentine's focus to bring you to an article that I tripped over in the Wall Street Journal. A question was asked to Elizabeth Garone, writer over in the career site of the Wall Street Journal. And it starts with, in early 2009, I pleaded guilty in traffic court for a speeding violation and paid the ticket and the fee. And it goes on that when I recently Googled my name, to my surprise, a link to the case came up on the first page of the results. When I clicked on it, I could see my vital personal information, including driver's license number, date of birth, address, car description, time and place of the violation. Holy cow! This person is just essentially freaking out, number one, because he's worried about identity theft. And quite frankly, yeah, that is something that I would be worried about as well. But also, what if an employer were to see that kind of information that this person back in 2009 got busted for a speeding ticket, and that magically appears on the web? Can that happen? Is it legal? And the bottom line is, it depends on what state you live in. This person happens to live, I believe, in the state of Indiana. Indiana allows that kind of information to be made public by the courts. The courts essentially just sort of put it up there. And if you want it removed, they have no formal way for you to go to the court and say, excuse me, you have all that information out there. I'd like to get it removed. Now, you might be able to write a letter to the judge. You might be able to go to the court and plead your case, and maybe you can get that taken care of. But the fact is, it's out on Google already. And if you think that employers are not Googling your name when you apply for a job, I'm sorry. It's happening 99.99. It's happening all the time. In every company that I have been with since the invention of the internet, we are checking you out in ways that you don't want to know. Look, there are websites out there. All I need to do is spend $19.95, and if I've got your name, your address, your phone number, God forbid I have your social security number, your driver's license number, I am going to know if you're married, how many children you have, if you've been divorced, where you've lived, the companies that you've worked for, whether or not you filed bankruptcy. The information is out there. If you don't believe me, go to Spokio.com and put your name in. Odds are it's going to put a map up of every place you've lived, and it's going to point exactly to where you are currently living. And if you click on that link, it will show you an aerial photograph of your house. If that scares you, good. I think it should. I think that we are way too public with way too much information. And if you get it, and it's going to get to the point, you get a speeding ticket, you get a ticket for jaywalking, you sneeze on somebody, you make a public statement, you do a protest or something to that effect, you are going to find your name, your likeness, and that information out on the web. And employers may or may not. I mean, if this person is applying for a job that happens to require him to drive a company car, and there it is on Google, page 1, about a speeding ticket, now, odds are the company's running a DMV check on you, but you never know what's going to come up on your name. If you don't know, Google your name. And I'll tell you, if you're not out there, somebody with a name just like you probably is, and 9 times out of 10, again, it's all bad information. What are you going to do? There's two things that I continue to advise people to do. Either you are not on the web and you go out of your way to make sure you never appear on the web and you hide your information and you do not have Facebook pages and you do not get involved in social networking. You don't. Or you take control of your life. You go and you work so that kind of a search, so that if I put up your name, a speeding ticket out of an Indiana courthouse does not appear on the first page. You want it buried. You want it going 20 pages in because nobody's going to look past maybe page 3, page 4. You need to dominate your name on the web. If you type my name, Mike Baumgartner, you're going to find me. You're going to find the show. You're going to find the YouTubes. You're going to find the articles that I have written. You're going to find the various conferences I have attended and spoken to. You're going to find what I've done for a living. You're going to find out all that information. That is intentional because when you type in my name, I want you to see the stuff I want you to see. Now, it's going to be a little extra confusing because apparently there's a Mike Baumgartner who ran for Senate in the state of Washington. So I'm kind of battling between him and Mike Baumgartner for Senate, but I can live with that because he just happens to be, from what I can tell, a pretty decent guy. If he was a scum-of-the-earth politician, well, more of a scum-of-the-earth politician than most others, then we may have to figure out some way to hide his results. But I'll live with it. So think of this. Anything that happens in your life may end up and probably will end up on the web. It is creepy to me that this kind of stuff will appear on Google. Now, can you go to Google and say this stuff has to come off? Hey, it's worth a try. Odds are no. Because if you're on Google, you're on Bing, you're on everybody else's search engine, and it all happens to get out there, and it never, ever, ever goes away. So how do you deal with this when you're applying for a job? Number one, you should have already Googled your name, and you should already know what is out there. Be ready to answer to this. You do not necessarily need to bring it up in an interview, although one of the more common questions I am seeing on an interview is, if I Google your name, what am I going to see? Which, by the way, just so you know, is probably not a quote-unquote proper, I'm not going to say it's illegal, but it's not a proper question to ask for an interview because, quite frankly, it has nothing to do with the job. And if you want to be a jerk about it, you could say, what does that have to do with the essential job functions of the job, which will really irk the recruiter and probably not get you hired because you're being a smart aleck. But they will ask you, if I Google your name, what am I going to see? You tell them, and you explain exactly what is there. If you have somebody who wrote something bad about you that happened to have been an ex-wife, ex-husband, somebody who just didn't like you, if you've got photographs, look, you'll know what's out there. Have answers for them. If it turns out that somebody, has a name very similar to you or happens to be exactly like you and they happen to be running a business that is going to really mess up your reputation, you need to have an answer for that. Get ahead of it. Be prepared for it. Don't say, I don't know. Because if you don't know your name, for most jobs that I interview for, if you don't know what your name is on a Google search, that tells me you're not connected. It means you're not living in 2011. Now, I'm not going to judge you if you don't have an iPhone. Well, actually, I might. It depends on the job. But I am definitely going to wonder whether or not you know what the word Twitter is. You may not have a Twitter account. You don't have to have a Twitter account. I have a Twitter account, Jobcast Radio. Check it out. You need to know at least what the word means. If you don't know what Facebook is, you should. Now, I totally respect somebody who says, yeah, I know about Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. I have no desire to be on Facebook. That actually will score you points from some interviewers. But you need to be aware and know what it is. You have to know what Google is. Oh, if you don't know what Google is, what job are you applying for? An antique dealership? I guarantee you, antique dealers, they're on the web. Figure it out. Know what that message is. Focus on it. Because if you don't have the answers for these kinds of questions, if you are not savvy enough to be in 2011, if you don't know what's going on in the world, then that means you're under a shell, and I don't need you working for my company, especially if I am in a company that intends to grow and get involved. More and more companies have entire departments who have nothing but people in chat rooms talking to customers. More and more companies have contact centers and ways to reach out to their customers electronically through Facebook pages, product pages, websites, microsites. They're all out there. And if you don't know about this, then you're not going to be competitive in any kind of company that's trying to make a dent in this world. Now, if you happen to be working in a barber shop and you don't know what Groupon is, again, I may not hire you. And if you don't know what Groupon is, go learn it. Learn about the goods and the bads of it. Think about it. If I know what it is, and believe me, I am not exactly what I would want to say is the super tech guru of the century, you should know it as well. Because, again, 2,500 people want your job. And if you are out of date, you are out of work. I guarantee you. You got a question about it, you don't know the answers, you don't know what Twitter is, you give me a call. I will explain it all for you because I am your Work-Life Survival Sage, Chief Executive Officer of the Work-Life Survival Center, and you are listening to Jobcast Radio. Check me out, jobcastradio.com. We have articles from all around the world about finding, getting, keeping, and surviving your job. And you can always give me a shout, 304-867-4142. Again, 304-867-4142. Or you can always shoot me an email, mike@jobcastradio.com. I will respond to each and every call, each and every email, because I want you employed. And if you're not employed, we'll get you where you need to be. Give me a shout. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take this job and shut it.